Hello everybody, my name is Heather and we are finally getting some warm spring weather here in Idaho. So I thought I would do a reading vlog of some of the books that I've been saving for spring. I don't really have a lot of explanation as to why these books say spring in my mind, but they do. Honestly, looking at the stack, I think it's probably mostly just that they have green covers. That apparently is like what I think of as spring books, because all of these are green covered books. But that's basically what this video is. It's just going to be a reading vlog of me reading some of my books that I've been saving specifically for spring now that we're finally having it warm up. It's currently April 10th and we're finally getting some nice spring feeling weather. I don't know how long this is gonna last. It's basically 70 today. I think we're gonna have like one more warm day and then it's gonna drop back down again. We're just kind of ups and downs. So it's not all gonna be spring weather outside, but maybe I can just like manifest spring really being here by reading these books. So first thing I'm going to do is walk you through the books that I'm reading. Not necessarily going to read these books all back to back just for this video. I have too many other books going on that I want to read right now. So I'm just going to introduce them now, and then when I get to reading them throughout the spring season, I will film it, and hopefully I probably won't drag it on too long, but just know that I might not necessarily be reading these books all back to back because I've got other stuff that I want to get to too. The first book is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. This is the bind up that has both books in one. Something about Alice in Wonderland is just a very spring themed. It just feels like gardens and outdoors and just, I don't know, it feels like spring. This one is like truly, the content feels like spring, not just the cover. But I've never read the actual story on this. Obviously I know the plot, but I'm very interested to see what I know just from having picked up in like pop culture. I've seen like the movies, but I'm very interested to see how close that is to what the actual book was, because I feel like sometimes we twist things a lot and we just take like the key main things, but there's tons of details that are missing in like pop culture and in like our common versions of the stories now. So I'm very interested to see this, how the original is. But that's my first book. I don't think I'm necessarily going to start with this book, we'll see, but at some point in this video we will be reading this book. And then the second book that is on the TBR for this video is The Witch Doctor's Daughter by Katrina Moda Dowd. I read another book by this author for my Around the World in Books challenge. She was my pick for, I think she's from Brunei. Not sure I'm saying that right still, but I read her book The Fisherman's King, and it was really good. It's very like folklore-y feeling, and so this one just seemed like it could be fun. All of them are, or both of them are based in like Water Village situation, but you're following, I'm just going to read the back. But Sophia loves her charlatan parents, but after years of watching the heartbroken and grieving come to them for fake and futile spiritual aid, she has had enough. So she leaves the Water Village to stay with her mother's people at the Longhouse in the jungle, where she learns traditional medicine, meets an enigmatic linguist, and finds herself caring for an orphaned newborn. Along the way, Sophia must discover what she truly wants from life. So jungles feel spring-esque. I don't know. Again, I think it's just the green cover that makes this feel like spring to me, but I'm very excited for this one. I loved this author's writing in the other book. They're very much so like folk tales, so not necessarily gonna have like a traditional story arc or a happy ending or anything like that. At least that's how the other book was, so I'm guessing that this will be very similar to that one. That book had the like best descriptions where I could just like picture it vividly. I'm not really someone who's super like imagines scenes and details in my head, but that book, I have like very vivid images of scenes from that book in my head, so I'm thinking that this book will probably be really similar. So I'm very excited for this one. I can't wait to get to this book. And this next one, my husband is going to be very excited. He is a huge Brandon Sanderson fan, and I've decided I'm finally going to get to Tress of the Emerald Sea. Again, I think part of it is just the green cover that makes me think this one is spring, but it's also like boat based. Like I think they're on a boat for a lot of it, from my understanding. So we're going with that. I don't know. This one's very much so like a cozy fantasy, I've been told, but also like there's a plot. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what I'll think about this one. It feels a little bit different. I feel like a lot of people who like Brandon Sanderson's typical books don't seem to love this one as much. and a lot of people who love this one don't really like his big thick books as much, so I don't know. I like the high fantasy books that he has. I've read Mistborn and I've read The Way of Kings. So, and I liked those books, but I also really liked his Frugal Wizard book, which was one of his other secret projects. So I don't know, we'll see. I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel about this one, but I know my husband's gonna be very excited to see me finally get around to it. So this one will be happening in this video at some point. And then the last one for this video, I am going to take this as the opportunity to finally reread The Hobbit. I have reread The Hobbit multiple times, so this will probably be like my 4th time reading it, I think, but I now have a special illustrated edition of it, and I'm very excited to read it from this edition. So I don't know, The Hobbit, something specifically about hobbits feels like spring to me. Like just their lifestyle feels spring. So I don't know, and is The Hobbit actually set in spring? I don't know. I'm not actually sure. It seems like the right time period. But really, again, it's just an excuse to reread this book. I do really love The Hobbit. I think it's a wonderful, fun book. I didn't love the actual Lord of the Rings trilogy very much, or at least as much, but I do love The Hobbit. So I'm going to be using this as the opportunity to reread. I think I might actually start with this book and just kind of do it like a bedtime story. Which, I don't know, I just feel like this is a perfect one to read before bed, where it's like, I know what's gonna happen, but it's still just like a fun book. So I don't know, I have a few books that I want to read that I know are gonna be like not the right books to read before bed, because I'm gonna be stressed, I'm gonna be really invested, and be really tempted to just like stay up late and read them. So this one feels like a good one to read like just a few chapters before bed and just kind of treat it like a bedtime story, like I'm a kid again. So that's what I think I'm gonna do with this book. But I think I'm gonna start with this one, reading it at night as I get through some of my other books that I've been wanting to, and then we'll kind of pick up some of these. I'm also kind of tempted to look and see if there's a good audiobook for Alice in Wonderland. I feel like there's gotta be one. So I might look into that, we'll see, and kind of jump back and forth between the audiobook and the book. But this is my TBR for the video, my spring books, and we'll just go ahead and jump right into reading. Hey guys, quick update on this video. I have been reading The Hobbit for a little bit. I've just been doing like a little bit at night. So I'm kind of taking my time with that one. Again, this one's a reread for me. I haven't been rushing it. I probably at some point will sit down and really focus on getting that one done. But things have been kind of slow at work the last few days. So I've been taking a book, and I didn't want to take my like nice edition of The Hobbit with me. So I've just been saving that one as my nighttime one. And then I actually picked up and started Tress of the Emerald Sea for my book to take to work with me for when I don't have stuff to do. So I've been working my way through this one. I am pretty much exactly 100 pages into this book. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a check-in before I read the whole thing and then just don't even vlog it. I don't have a ton of clips of me reading yet because I've just been reading at work, but I'm gonna sit down for the next like half hour till Jacob comes home and read a little bit more, so I'll film some of that. This book's really fun. I don't know how I feel about people saying that they are like, this is a good place to start with Brandon Sanderson books. I feel like this isn't the best example of what his typical writing looks like. This is pretty different from how most of his books are written. This one has a very involved narrator, and I feel like it's always hard to explain that, but like the narrator is talking to you and interrupts the story occasionally, and he'll make little comments about like, yeah, that's me, or like stuff like that. So he's a character in the book, a minor character, but he's also the narrator, and so definitely not how a lot of his books are written. I really love the more active narrator vibe. I feel like it's really fun. I would say it's more akin to if you read like Alex Michelide's books, how he had his two, like Silent Patient and The Maidens, and then he wrote The Fury, and a lot of people were really thrown off by like the narrator. It's more that type of a narrator, like The Fury. So I don't know, maybe not a good comparison, but if you've read those books, you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like that. Lots of Brandon Sanderson books are like more high fantasy, written, you're not in any one character's point of view, there's not really like a defined narrator. This one is not like that. So the other thing about it is the narrator is a character from other books. So if you know the character, it's even more fun because you know that character's sense of humor and you already have like a connection with them. Probably the best book to have read first is at least one book in the Stormlight Archive. I've only read Way of Kings, so I haven't read very many of them, but enough to kind of know that character well to then get like, oh, that's this character. And there's one part where he like says his name and he's like, yep, that's me, you know who it is, the name's a giveaway. If you haven't read the Stormlight Archive, that's not gonna make sense. So that's my thoughts as far as starting on this one. It's a fun book and it definitely is still a standalone, but I feel like I don't know that I'd recommend this one as being your first starting point because it's not like his other books. So it's not a good guide on if you're going to like some of his bigger series because it's not the same type of writing at all. It feels more like the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England, which I love, but again, not his typical writing. So I'm having fun. It's definitely a funny, quirky one. The world building is very fascinating. This world is very interesting. I don't know if I explained at all what this book is about, but you're following Tress, who, how much do I say without like spoiling this? Basically, she lives on this island that is like the worst place ever to live, essentially. And some things happen to lead her towards going on an adventure, essentially. That's probably the best way to explain it without spoiling things, but she sets off on this adventure. A lot of it so far has taken part on boats. They're not on the ocean necessarily. There are these things called, what are they called? Spores. There are these things called spores that rain down from the moons in this planet. And those act like the ocean, but they're super deadly. So like you can't touch them. If they touch water, they do different things. But basically that's the story so far. There's a lot of really fun, quirky characters. It's interesting. I'm interested to see where we go with this. A lot of people describe this as cozy fantasy, but I feel like there's a lot higher stakes than I would have expected from a cozy fantasy book. Like she's almost died on multiple occasions now. So it's not like the lowest stakes book, but I'm very interested to see what the story arc is. I've heard it's not what you'd expect necessarily from the beginning. So we'll see. I'm gonna sit down and read for a little bit. I've got my drink and I'm going to try and make some progress in this book so that I don't drag this video out for too long. But I am interested. I am liking it enough to sit down and like read for a solid, probably more like 20 minutes now. We'll see. But that's my plan. That's what's happening. Hobbit's going good. I'm not very far into it, but the pictures are great. I love it. So that's what's happening. I will update you most likely when I've finished Tress. I have officially finished Tress of the Emerald Sea. This book was fun. I think I'm gonna give it like 4.5 stars. I don't really have anything specifically against the book, but it just didn't really, like, it's not gonna be a top favorite book, but it was still really good. I still stand by that I don't know that I would start with this book in the Cosmere because I do feel like unless you understand who the narrator is, it's not gonna land as well. Like I feel like a lot of people I've seen be like, oh, that was like kind of weird. And I feel like it makes so much more sense. The humor makes so much more sense if you have met the narrator before. So he's like a character in Stormlight Archive. So if you've met Wit from the Stormlight Archive, or as he's known in some of the other books, Hoyd, that's who narrates this book. So I feel like you need to kind of have an idea of that character before you go into this. that being said, I did guess the plot twist pretty early on. There's some very heavy foreshadowing, so I don't even know that this is me like really putting together things in an impressive way. I think it's just like so heavily foreshadowed that it's really easy to figure out what the plot twist is gonna be. I don't know. Less of a shock value. I guess that's probably why people classify this as a cozy fantasy, is it's not really like you're gonna be that shocked by the ending. So there's definitely a lot of really funny lines in this. This is like a funny, silly book for sure. So I would say it's almost more like comedic than necessarily cozy even, because there's definitely a lot of like, there's some very high stakes in this book, but it's just like funny. But again, I think that takes a certain amount of appreciation for who the narrator is in order to truly sink into how funny it is. So that's Tress of the Emerald Sea. Overall, really good book, but I would at least read Way of Kings first, would be my suggestion on that one. So really fun. I'm halfway through the Secret Projects now, so I've read this one in Frugal Wizard, but it sounds like Yumi and Sunlit ones are maybe ones that you want to read once you're a little further into some of the Cosmere stuff, so I'll probably wait on those ones for a minute. But since this one is now done, we are moving on to my next book. I'm still working my way through The Hobbit. I don't really have any updates on that one, but I think I'm going to also go ahead and pick up The Witch Doctor's Daughter by Katrina Wood-Dowd. I feel like I read the back at the beginning of this video, I think. So I don't really have much else to say about this one, but I'm very interested. I love these tall paperbacks. Like the ones, they're like almost the height of a hardback. It's pretty close, but I really love the size of these. I feel like it's so satisfying. So and I will fly through this one. It's not very long at all. It's not even 200 pages. So definitely a very short book. This will be a quick read. I will check back in when I have some updates on this and or The Hobbit. I have finished The Witch Doctor's Daughter. This was a good book. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting it to be. The other book that I read by this author, The Fisherman King, is very much so like, felt like a folk tale. Like it was very magical, very fantasy, told like a folk tale. This is much more lit-fic-esque. It is very much like a coming of age story where you're following this girl. She's just trying to figure her life out, basically is what it is. She's like 21, doesn't really have a plan, hasn't gone to college, doesn't really know what she's doing with her life, and you're just kind of following her as she sorts it out. I will say it's very satisfying because by the end she really has figured stuff out. So it's not one of those coming of age books where you're just like, oh, now they have the tools and they're in a good place to go and figure this out. The lighting is going crazy, sorry, but you definitely follow her through the entire process, and by the end she like has a plan, she knows where she's going, stuff has kind of worked out, and I don't know, I really like that part of it. It still is just, I love this author's writing. It's just so good. Something about it just is so vivid, I guess. Like you just feel like you're there, and they're just so interesting of characters. Like they're not your typical things. There's not tropes. Like she's not an author that writes around tropes, and I really appreciate that. But yeah, I'm giving this book 4 stars. I think it's just a really solid book. I don't love it as much as The Fisherman King. That one was just like above and beyond, blew me out of the water. But I still just love her writing, and I will try and get my hands on anything that I can. Her covers are beautiful. Her writing is just amazing. I wish that these books were sold in somewhere closer to the US where shipping wasn't so insane. My husband bought these for me for Christmas because the shipping is wild because we have to ship them from Singapore. So I really wish I could get my hands on more of her books, but I don't know. I may have to try and see if I can find, I think she has another book. Let me grab my phone. Yeah, so she has one other book called The Halfling King. So I'll have to see. I wonder if I'm able to get that on like Libby or Kindle or something. Not on Libby, but anyways, so I might try and find that one at some point, but I just love her writing. I would highly recommend. I believe you can get these books on Kindle. So if you're interested in reading them and you don't want to pay the shipping, you can get them in ebook form. But that brings us to our last book for this video, and that is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. So I'm gonna work my way through this one. I'm hoping I can get through it pretty quickly. I do have one book I'm going to read before I get to this one, but it's not for this video. It's Where the Dark Stands Still. I got it through Libby, so I need to read it before the due date ends, which I guess maybe this one is spring vibes. I have no idea. Maybe I'll update you again if I feel like this one is kind of a springy book, but really the next book for this video is going to be this one. I'm very excited for this one. I feel like this is just a fun spring one. We've kind of had the weather cool back down a little bit, so it's not feeling quite so spring outside, but I am still going to manifest spring weather through my books. So let's go read Alice in Wonderland. Hey guys, this is maybe not the best lighting or audio, but I'm getting ready to go to work and I thought I'd hurry and film an update because I've mostly been reading this at work, but I have made some progress in my latest book. I have finished the Alice's Adventures in Wonderland part of this, so it's like 144 pages of that book, and then it switches to Through the Looking Glass. So I finished part one. It was interesting. I feel like I need to go rewatch the movies. I feel like there were a lot of scenes in here that I don't remember being in the movie, but maybe I just don't remember it very well. So I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like it'd be fun to go rewatch it now that this is like fresh on my mind. It very much so reminds me of The Master Margarita, which is probably the most random comparison, but just the ways that it expects you to just accept whatever weird thing is happening just feels like how Master Margarita is written. So if you loved this one as a kid, maybe Master and Margarita would be a good option for you now as an adult, but they have a very similar feel to them. They're not at all similar in like plot, things they involve, anything like that, but just the vibe of the way it is written, and you're expected to just accept all the crazy things that's going on like it's normal. Is just very similar, but that's kind of where I'm at on that. My next part is to read it Through the Looking Glass. This one's shorter. I think it's only like 114 pages, so definitely something I'll be able to read through pretty quick, which means we're almost done with this video, but I am still working my way through The Hobbit. I'm not sure if I'm gonna actually finish it in this video because I've really been enjoying just taking my time with it and reading just a little bit every night. Like, it seriously feels so nostalgic to be like having this book that I only read right before bed, and I only read a little bit at a time. And so I don't know if I'm gonna fully finish it, but I don't really have a ton of thoughts on that book anyways, because it's like a reread for the I don't even know how many times I've reread it. So I don't have a ton of new thoughts on The Hobbit. So I don't know. I am still working my way through that one, but I don't know that I'm necessarily going to like finish it for this video because I kind of want to continue to take my time with it. So I will check back in with you when I have finished Through the Looking Glass, and then we will do a recap of all of my thoughts with my spring reading in my not so springy weather that has kind of come on. But I will update you guys when I'm done with this book. Alright, hello everybody. I have finished Alice in Wonderland, or Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. I think I'm giving this book like a 3-star. It's not the most amazing book. It's not my favorite classic for sure, but it's fine. I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I have now seen the source material, basically, I guess. I was very surprised at how many things I feel like when we do our different retellings, I guess, of this book, we definitely have a tendency to combine a lot of things. Like there's a lot of things that I was very surprised were not mentioned until Through the Looking Glass. So for example, unbirthdays aren't until Through the Looking Glass. Tweedledee and Tweedledum are not until then. And so there's just like a few things that I feel like we've just intermingled and kind of swapped. The unbirthday thing also has absolutely nothing to do with the Mad Hatter or the Tea Party. It is something that Humpty Dumpty talks about. So that was very fascinating to see just the ways that we have combined and taken elements from both books or both stories and combine them into kind of one tell. So I really need to go rewatch the movies and see if maybe I'm just confusing things in my brain, but I'm pretty sure that we have intermingled those things. Also, sorry if the lighting's crazy. It is like a cloudy day and I'm by a window, and so as the clouds move, the lighting's just changing. But overall, I just feel like I struggle a little bit with books that expect you to just accept everything, no matter how weird it is, and you're not gonna get explanations. There's not like a reason for it to be weird. It's just weird and you just have to accept it. This feels like if you were to try and take dream logic and write it into a book. Like, it's just, you're walking through a field and all of a sudden now you're sitting on a train. And it's just like you just take these leaps of things. And so this is very much so what I feel like. I feel like a book that just exemplifies exactly how dream logic works. So if that is appealing to you, then I would say read it. I feel like this would be an interesting one to read to kids. I don't know, maybe kids would have an easier time accepting this, and just because I'm an adult, I'm struggling. I feel like I've mentioned this before in this video, but I'm a plot reader. I like the plot, so having one that just kind of jumps all over the place is a little bit tricky for me to follow. So again, overall, not my favorite, but it was good. I'm glad I read it. And that is going to bring us to the end of the video. I know I have not finished The Hobbit, but quite frankly, I have nothing to say. Like, I've reread this book so many times. I have new thoughts. I have no new thoughts. It just is a good book. There's a reason I've read it multiple times, and I highly recommend taking a book that you read as a kid and reading it to yourself as a nighttime story. I feel like there's something just so fun about it, and I'm going to continue to just make my way through this super slowly. I do not want to rush it. I'm having a lot of fun just really taking my time with this and working my way through it super slow. So I'm going to continue reading through this. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video though, because I want to get on to other things, but highly recommend picking something to be your nighttime story. But with that, we are at the end of the video. My battery's flashing, so I'm gonna wrap this up, but I had a lot of fun. I feel like these were all good spring books. I don't feel like any of them were particularly overly spring centered in their actual plot or setting, but they were good books. I loved them. I had a lot of fun reading. This was a pretty good selection of books. So let me know what books you have that are spring vibes in your mind, and maybe I'll get a few more done before the spring season is over and we're officially into summer. But let me know if you have any summer recommendations. Maybe I'll do a summer video based off of your guys' recommendations. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye.